Drive Home with Maggie and Perloff. Afternoons 3 to 6 on WSKO Syracuse, a Cumulus media station. The voice of the Central New York sports fan, The Score, 1260. Welcome to your home for local sports in Syracuse. Outside the Box Score with Mark Rowlands starts right now.
Good morning, everybody, and welcome to another edition of Outside the Box Score with me, Mark Rowlands, your home for local sports in Syracuse, right here on The Score 1260. Pleasure to be with you as always. Not a full house today, just me going old school solo show. Braylon unable to come in today. Josh visiting our neighbors to the north in Canada for the weekend. He's got a buddy with a camp up there, so they go up to Canada every once in a while. He's up there right now, and he'll be back next week, hopefully. Josh has been in and out the past few weeks, but he, of course, is still a massive part of this show, and he'll be back soon. So you just got me today. A few things to talk about today. We're going to start in just a minute with this absolutely crazy story that happened at the PGA Championship yesterday. Just one of, if not the most bizarre sports stories I've ever seen. Of course, involving world number one, Scottie Scheffler, who sits, I believe, 3 back of the lead right now. So we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about some Syracuse basketball news that's happened this week. Syracuse men's and women's lacrosse. A couple of big games coming up for those two teams. Talk some Syracuse Mets and a couple of high school stories that I was looking at earlier. One I think is pretty cool with a newer sport added to the high school sports schedule in this area, which just had its sectional finals. I want to mention that in a little bit. But I do have to start with Scottie Scheffler yesterday before the PGA Championship. Now, Scheffler obviously is very much in the public eye strictly for his golf. He's an unbelievable golfer. He captured his second Masters title this year. He won the Players. He won the Arnold Palmer. He's won 4 times on tour this year in his last 5 starts, looking to make it 5 out of 6. Last week, he didn't play in the Wells Fargo, which is another signature event. You, as a golfer now with these signature events, you have to play in a certain number of them. And he didn't play last week because his wife had their first baby. Very nice. It's a great story. Scheffler's a pretty heartwarming guy. Just seems like a really good dude from Texas and loves his family. Religious man. Everything is just positive PR with Scottie Scheffler. And then yesterday, I wake up, and Jim, I'll answer your question in just a second. Jim's in the chat already. Yesterday, I wake up. I'm getting ready to go to work at my other job at Bellevue Country Club. And like most people in this day and age, I wake up, first thing I do is take a look at my phone, see if anything happened while I was asleep. And I see a headline from ESPN, breaking news, Scottie Scheffler detained by police ahead of PGA Championship Round 2. And I say, wait a minute, what? Scottie Scheffler, the man who just had a baby, brand new father, man who we got a good look at in season 1 of Full Swing on Netflix, and seems to be just a really good-hearted, nice guy, has been arrested? So, naturally, I have to find out what's going on. It was Jeff Pearlman of ESPN, just so happened to be there. And he told the story that there was a delay at the PGA Championship, an hour and 20 minutes, due to a fatal car accident, which happened right by the golf course, which is terrible. Car struck a pedestrian, which is just awful. And so there was an increased police presence, and Scotty Scheffler was given permission, as well as every other golfer and caddy and person that's involved with the PGA Championship, to go around. Just go right around into the left side of the road, go around the police, go into the golf course. That's fine. Well, it appears that in this level of misunderstanding, police officer did not notice the courtesy car that Scotty Scheffler was driving. He was told to stop and didn't. I'm assuming his windows were up. And was told to stop. An officer jumped onto his car and attached himself. Scheffler drove about, I heard, 10 yards and then stopped once he noticed that the cop was on the car. Pulled out of the car, pushed up against it, handcuffs, book him. He's got 4 charges, 2 misdemeanors, 1 felony, and 1 traffic violation. He got charged with assaulting an officer, mugshots online, the whole 9. And this is where I'll get to your question, Jim, because he then proceeds to get released from jail, makes his tee time with about an hour to spare, thanks to the delay. He wouldn't have made it if it weren't for the delay that already happened. So he makes his tee time with about an hour to spare, proceeds to go out and shoot 66, 5 under par, because he's unbelievable at golf, gives a great post-round interview. He's affable. And Jim said, book him, Dano. I am familiar with the old school Hawaii 5-0. One of my dad's favorite lines in television history was from old Hawaii 5-0. Ram it, McGarrett. And so he shoots 5 under. He's 3 back of the lead. And right now, I don't know if anyone can beat this guy. In the past 5 weeks, or his past 5 starts, only one person has beat him. The one event he didn't win, he tied for 2nd place. So I don't think anyone can beat this guy. He's going to go out, and let's say he ends up winning this major. We're looking at a win that will go down in history as one of the most watched, talked about, remembered major wins in the history of golf. Now, is it on the same level as Tiger at the 2019 Masters? Probably not. Even Jack in 86 at Augusta? Not quite. But it's close if Scotty goes on to win this. And Jim asked the question, would getting arrested before your tee time affect your round that day? Now, I'm no Scotty Scheffler. I can hold my own on a golf course. You know, I'm compared to your average weekend golfer, I'd say slightly better. But I'm no professional by any means. I've never shot under par. I've only broken 80 3 times in my life. And I can't imagine stepping up to that first tee after 45 minutes ago, I'm in an orange jumpsuit being told I committed a felony, and going out and shooting 5 under par at a major championship at a course that I know it's not playing too tough right now, has played very tough in years past. Valhalla is not an easy golf course. This guy's just unbelievable. And no, Jim, I've never been arrested before my tee time. I've never been arrested, period. Something I'm quite proud of. Never been arrested. But I can't imagine that feeling. Everything that's going through his head. And I heard this discussed. last night, actually, when I was calling the Syracuse Mets game with Evan Stockton, which, by the way, if you want to hear me and Evan do that even more, I'm doing the entire weekend. 6:35 first pitch tonight, 6:20 pregame on right here on the Score 1260. 12:50 pregame tomorrow, 1:05 first pitch. I'll be in the booth with Evan for both of those games as well. We were discussing this during the game last night, and his newborn baby is going to grow up in a world of social media. And at some point in their life is going to find out that, my father was arrested about a week after I was born. And then, like I said, if he goes on to win, 3 shots behind Xander Schauffele right now. If he goes on to win, what? Just the craziest 2 weeks in Scotty Scheffler's life? Unbelievable. It's an unbelievable story. That's the only way I can describe it. I first saw that headline and said, someone is messing with me. ESPN got hacked. There's no way this happened. Just wild. Jim says if this thing doesn't go away, how fast does Scheffler jump to live for about $500 million? It's going to go away. It better go away. And Jim says, is this the last major held at Valhalla? I've seen a lot of people talking about that as well. If in a normal circumstance, I would say probably yes. But PGA of America owns 50% of Valhalla. They are a partner in the golf course. This course will be hosting PGA championships for the rest of time. That's just the way it is. And it hasn't hosted one in a while. This is where Rory won his last one in 2014, so a decade ago. But since they own so much of the course, this is this is going to be around a while. Even though it seemed like at the time it was handled quite poorly by the police department. Scotty Scheffler did have very nice things to say about the officer that arrested him and the police department in general. So I think this is one of those things that's going to go away. But God, was it funny. I've talked a lot on this show about some of the best days in Twitter history. I'm a big Twitter guy. I'm always on Twitter. And we just had one recently with the passing of O.J. Simpson, just in terms of the jokes that were made. And same when O.J. was released from prison, same when the L.A. Clippers called the LAPD into the locker room after a game, which I'm also thinking about because of Inside the NBA and all the things that are going on there. The best sports show on television, Inside the NBA. Yesterday was an unbelievable Twitter day. Scotty Scheffler was arrested. Like, you can't imagine things like that happening. It was just unbelievable. Unbelievable jokes. There was the clip of him entering Valhalla after this entire thing, and someone put many men behind it. Oh, so good. So good. And Scotty was in a great mood afterwards. He gave an unbelievable post-round press conference, post-round interview. So he seems affable about it. He seems lighthearted. He was laughing and stuff on the practice range before the round yesterday. He went out and played a great round of golf. And now he's got this. It's fun, man. It's a fun story to talk about because very rarely do we get things as insane as this happening just to someone like that. Jim, would anyone have even heard about this if it happened at Augusta? Yes, it would have been. I think it would have even been a bigger deal if it happened at Augusta because it's Augusta. But it would have been handled so much better, I think. First of all, the president of Augusta would have gone to the jail himself and said, no. This guy's got a jacket. He's got 2 now. Come on. Bring him here. That's what would have happened. Because as everyone knows, the president of Augusta National has as much power as Jay Monahan or any of those guys. So that would have happened. But God, it was a funny day on social media yesterday, man. That's for sure. Just a really, really funny day. And I had to start this show talking about that because I've never seen anything like it. We do have to take a timeout. We'll be back shortly here on Outside the Box Score with me, Mark Rowlands, your home for local sports in Syracuse, right here on the Score 1260.
Trucks, and more trucks. Plus,
Where's Josh and Braylon? Braylon's had a very long week. He told me he just needed a morning. So I'm like, okay, yeah, go ahead, take it. Josh is up in Canada. Which, trust me, this is one of those stories that I wish they were here to specifically Josh. I mean, Josh and I would be having. We might do 40 minutes on Scotty Scheffler if Josh was here. Would getting arrested impact their golf games? Braylon doesn't golf, so who knows? Who knows with him? Josh, I think there's two options with Josh. He either shoots the worst round of his life or the best round of his life after something like that. And Josh and I played golf last week after the show, and we golf all the time. We've gone on a golf trip together. We're golfing buddies, playing in a scramble tournament coming up pretty soon. Which June 1st, there's going to be no show because we're playing in a golf tournament. So, and no show next week. Keep in mind. And so it would either be the best or worst round of his life. If Scheffler is in final pairing tomorrow, how does his playing partner not get under his skin by showing up in an orange jumpsuit and his caddy and his caddy is in uniform? That would be very funny. Obviously, that's not going to happen, but it would be very funny if somehow he got paired with Ricky Fowler. And Ricky just goes classic old all orange, like young Ricky when it was all the bright neon orange. If he got paired with Ricky Fowler, that would be hilarious because it wouldn't even be like a knock. Well, that's what I said about Scheffler going into yesterday. I said he's either going to shoot 80 or 61. He ended up shooting 66, but I was like, that's the only thing that can happen here. Is he's either going to be unbelievable or he's going to shoot the worst round of his professional career. We're about 10 minutes away from the third round. I've been watching in here. What can actually rattle Scheffler if getting arrested didn't? I'll tell you right now. I don't think there is anything. The man is unshakable. He's absolutely unshakable. He was in jail. Nothing. The guy's unbelievable.
Chido.
And we're back outside the box score with me, Mark Rowlands, your home for local sports in Syracuse, right here on the Score 1260. Gonna talk a little bit. We just did a whole thing on Scotty Scheffler, and that unbelievable story from yesterday. But we're gonna move on, get some local stuff, and start with Syracuse men's lacrosse. They're gonna be playing tomorrow at noon against Denver, who shout out a local kid, Dan Anderson, out of CBA. He's a midi for Denver and has played quite well for them this year. It's got to be kind of fun for him to be playing against the team that he grew up rooting for here in Syracuse. So shout out to Dan. I know him quite well. He's a good kid, good lacrosse player, really good lacrosse player, and little interesting wrinkle in this one. But Syracuse coming off a win the other night. Well, not quite the other night. It was on Sunday, coming off a win against Towson that really surprised everyone. Uh, SU, I was at the game. SU was trailing at halftime by 1, and everyone's sitting there thinking, oh boy, not Towson again. Why did it have to be Towson? Why is it always Towson? And this time, they didn't get us. Towson, of course, the team that eliminated Syracuse in the 2017 NCAA tournament. So there was some flashbacks going on there. But SU coming away with a 20-15 win after scoring 9 straight goals in the third quarter. Like I said, I was at the game. I was doing a freelance gig for the Juice, Syracuse's rivals website. If you were checking out their Twitter account that night, that was me doing all the tweets, including the rally nachos and all this stuff, because I was like, all right, something needs to change at halftime. I'm going to go get some nachos because I'm at the Dome. And when you're at the Dome, you have to get nachos or else you didn't really go to the Dome. Get some nachos. SU goes on a heater. So I'm taking full credit for Syracuse's 9 straight goals in the third quarter. It was all because of my nachos. Anyway, that was a team. And I've watched a fair bit of Syracuse lacrosse this year. That was the best this team has looked in a long time. They struggled against Duke. No two ways about it. When they played Duke in the ACC tournament, struggled is an understatement. They were flat out bad for most of that game. Syracuse in this one, in the second half, showed why they're a top 4 team in the country. That second half was as impressive of a display of lacrosse as I've seen out of this team this year. Because you can rely on a guy like Joey Spallina, who we'll get to in a second, because he had a tremendous game on Sunday. So we'll get to Spallina in a second, but you can always rely on guys like him or Owen Hiltz, because those are your anchors on the offensive side. Jim says Syracuse -2.5 versus Denver, good value. I like it. I like it a lot. I don't think they're going to lose. But when you can get not just contributions, but great play out of other guys that maybe, they don't necessarily stuff the stat sheet as much as others, and they sort of fall under the radar. Michael Leo had 2 goals. Jake Stevens had 3 goals. When you get stuff like that, both face-off guys said at one point, you know what? I'm going to take this down, do it myself, and score. That is a cohesive unit. That is a well-coached team. That is a well-balanced team. Now, the defense, excuse me, the defense still struggled at times, for sure. They gave up 15 goals. Will Mark had a much better day than he did against Duke. He did end up recording 10 saves. He hadn't recorded a save since April 20th prior to this game. 0 saves since April 20th. He had 10. Much better game by Will Mark. And like I said, Mason Cohn, the face-off guy, 1 goal. Love it. John Mullen, another goal. Love it. Those are the great contributions you're looking for. But then you add those together with Joey Spallina going for 4 goals and 4 assists, 8 points in an NCAA tournament game, 6 points out of Owen Hiltz. He had 4 goals of his own with 2 assists. That's what makes this team special. That's what makes this team one of the 4 best teams in the country. That's what makes this team a favorite against a team like Denver, who's been very good this year. Denver's a really good team. I love it, man. This is what SU fans have been waiting for. This, and keep in mind, that was Joey Spallina's first NCAA tournament game. He had 8 points. But this is what we were promised when Gary Gate came in. He said, all right, I'm bringing this Spallina kid. He's the top recruit in the country. Don't worry about him. He's going to be great. He was right. Been waiting for this for so long. I know 7 years doesn't seem like that long of a time, especially in lacrosse where the field is so much smaller and it's so much harder to get into the tournament. 11 national championships in lacrosse for this school. We need this. And we've got it. Syracuse men's lacrosse is going to be a problem for Denver tomorrow at noon. And guess what? If they win that game, they're going to be a problem for Notre Dame, who's the top team in the country. I don't care. They're going to be a problem. And Jim brings up the SU women, which is where I wanted to go next. SU women's lacrosse. Destroy Yale 19-9 the other night. I mean, just dominated. And they're heading back to the Final Four. Of course, they get Boston College. Boston College has won 6 straight against Syracuse. Boston College eliminated Syracuse from the Final Four a year ago this time. The old adage is, it's hard to beat a team 3 times in a season. It's a lot harder to beat a team 6 times in a row. It's even harder to beat a team 7 times in a row. Now, I know how good Boston College is, and they do have our number right now. But I don't know, man. I got a feeling. I've just got a feeling that streak might come to an end. Because 7 in a row, that's a big number for 2 of the top teams in the country. That's a big number. And I know Syracuse is going into this game as the underdog. BC, great team. But, God, I mean, and BC, probably a better team. Probably a better team than SU. I don't think there's any shame in saying that. But 7 in a row. That's why series are 7 games in baseball and basketball. Because any team can beat any other team on any given night. I'd say the Knicks are a pretty significantly better team than the Indiana Pacers. I think the Knicks are pretty good. The Pacers are good, but I think the Knicks are a better team. Game 7 tomorrow. Plain and simple. Any team can beat anyone on any given night. And these 2 teams are close. Syracuse is no slouch. I know Boston College is scary. Syracuse is no slouch. They got Emma Tyrell, who had 7 goals and 2 assists. She had 9 points against Yale. 7 of 8 shooting. She had 1 saved. Pretty good. Emma Ward had 3 goals and 4 assists. 7 points. Pretty good. 2 other players had a hat trick. That's 4 players with at least 3 goals in that win over Yale. I talk about the depth and the balance on the SU men's team. The women's team has the same thing. They've got great balance, great depth. I don't know. It's going to be a fun one. It's going to be a fun one for sure. Am I going to sit here and say, oh, I guarantee Syracuse is going to win that game? No. Boston College is a great team. And like I said, they've had our number. But Syracuse ain't so bad themselves. So it's going to be a fun one. I hope a lot of people watch that because SU women's lacrosse the past couple of years has been sort of the best thing Syracuse athletics have had going for it. You know, last year they were the number one team in the country for a fair bit. I hope people watch that one because it's going to be a lot of fun. Now, I don't think they're going to, if they beat BC, it's certainly not going to be 19-9. That's for sure. That's for sure. And if it is, just hand them the trophy. Who needs a championship game? They beat BC by 10. Screw the championship game. Just hand them the trophy. Because no one beats BC like that. But it's going to be fun. A lot of good things happening with Syracuse right now. The athletics are on the up and up again. And it makes this job a lot more fun when I have a lot of good things to say about Syracuse athletics. And I always try to be positive. I'm a pretty positive guy. But when the positivity is based in truth, that's what makes this job fun. And it's not just trying to be like, oh, I think they could do this. I think they could do that. We got some good teams, man. We got some really good teams at Syracuse right now. Women's basketball, women's lacrosse, men's lacrosse, the football team. Obviously, we got to see, Fran Brown's in-game coaching ability, but on paper, they look pretty damn good. Basketball team won 20 games. It's a lot of good things going on at Syracuse University right now. And we'll come back and we'll talk about the men's basketball team because a pretty important game was just scheduled. At least important in my eyes. We'll see if you agree when we come back right here on Outside the Box Score, your home for local sports in Syracuse on the Score 1260.
Need a great deal on a bed?
No. Even though I do love that tournament. I think that's going to be really cool. No one else is going to. We're a little behind on breaks, but not too bad. Not too bad. We're only like 5 minutes behind. It's a lot easier when it's just me by myself to keep things on track because I know when I'm going to go on like a rant or something. Whereas sometimes with the conversations, you don't want to cut conversations off, We have a lot of really good bits on this show. A lot of really good talks, and you just never want to cut them off. So that's what makes us fall behind on breaks from time to time. Yeah, blame Josh. No, it's all my fault. It's entirely my fault, but we can say blame Josh. I'm fine blaming Josh. He's not here. He's not watching. It's Josh's fault. Golfing this afternoon, Jim? I don't know what it's like up there in O-Town, but a little chilly here. It's only about 65 out right now, going up to 70. Thinking about hitting the links. Golfed poorly yesterday. It's not good. Oh, no. Yeah, well, the only way to get that out of your head is go and play again. Play better. That's what I do. Have a bad round, go out. All right. Erase it. Let's have a good round. I want to go and play I haven't been playing like really decent courses yet. Yeah, I'm going to see if I can get a tee time for this afternoon. Why not? The driver's the problem. Yeah, let's go to 3-wood. That's all I hit. I hit 3-wood off the tee. I don't even have a driver in the bag. Oh, also, Jim, I saw at Bellevue yesterday, playing as a guest, Oswego men's basketball coach, Jason Leone. Talked to him for a few minutes. Great guy. Yeah, I've had him on this show a couple times, as you know. One of my favorites.
Bugs come back, we come back until the first winter snowfall.
And we're back outside the box score with me, Mark Rowlands, your home for local sports in Syracuse, right here on the score 1260. Jim, thank you for bringing that up in chat. I wanted to talk about that too, because really interesting stuff going on the recruiting side for Syracuse men's basketball that I meant to put on the docket for today and forgot. So thank you. I'll get to that in a second. Dude, just want to shout out, saw a friend of the show yesterday. One of my favorite guests. I love having him on at least once a year, if not, maybe in the future more during the regular season and playoffs. Coach Jason Leone, Oswego men's basketball coach. I saw him yesterday. He was playing as a guest at Bellevue Country Club. Talked to him for a few minutes. He gave me the lowdown on the recruiting side of things for Oswego right now, trying to get a couple of transfers. They just got a kid in that they were really going hard at from Ilion. And I hate to break it to anyone who roots for any other SUNYAC team out there. Things are looking pretty good for the Lakers again. That's all I'm going to say. That's all I'm going to say. I'm not going to sit here and, go, break it down who Coach Leone's trying to get. Because there's still in active talks with a few transfers right now. So I'm not going to, I don't want anyone else getting any ideas if there's any other coaches out there listening or anything like that. But he was talking me through some of the players that they both have coming in and are trying to get, who they think they'll get. And we're going to be talking a lot about Oswego basketball again next year because things are looking pretty good. And keep in mind, they still have Key Anderson, who's the best player in the league. So as long as you got him, things aren't going to be too bad. Jim, you mentioned Eddie Lampkin, the transfer out of Colorado, who is still coming to Syracuse, it looks like. I had someone text me that and they said that the growing thought is that he's staying. He's going to stay at Syracuse, but there was some other things going on there involving other schools that sort of came out of nowhere. But I don't want to get into the details on that. But I have heard some rumblings that he's going to be staying. And it's interesting because Lampkin was sort of the big prize of the offseason for Syracuse. Everyone was saying, oh, we need a center, we need a center, we need a center. All right, let's go out and get this 6'10 guy from Colorado who performed well on the biggest stage in college basketball, the NCAA tournament. Let's bring him in. Why not? So we get our center, something that Syracuse struggled with last year. Malik Brown was great at the 5, but he's a 4. We need that big body that could play consistent minutes down low. And then he goes on social media and he deletes everything, and it's a little iffy. I don't know if you guys have followed this No Destination, who I'm trying to figure something out with. I would love to work with these guys because I think they do great work. They're a newer SU account on social media, and they've been doing a phenomenal job. And he talked about, and I'm sorry, I'm blanking on his first name right now. He talked about the reputation that he thought Lampkin had as just a consummate gentleman, just a really good guy. Came up and introduced himself, was talking about how excited he was to come to Syracuse, and just everything about him seems like he's the perfect type of guy that you want on your team. I tend to believe that. I do. And I think this, it's something that we've done on this show many times, and I try not to do, but it's also interesting and kind of fun to talk about, is the overanalyzation of social media posts by athletes, specifically college athletes. We've done it a few times with Syracuse players, Quadir Copeland, Judah Mintz. Things get weird on social media sometimes. So he deletes all these SU posts off his Instagram account, and things look weird. I think he's staying. I don't think we need to get into all this much, all this speculation. I think he's staying. I hope he's staying because, like I said, that was the big get, who I thought was a perfect addition to this team. And I really do hope he stays, but I think he's going to. I think. I know nothing for sure. I think he's going to stay. So that's just my quick little take on that. But we did have a report from one of my favorites, John Rothstein, who's awesome. One of the great college basketball Twitter follows. He works with CBS. And he gave a little report yesterday that the Georgetown game has been scheduled. And it is back, as it should be, in the JMA Wireless Dome. December 14th. It looks like we're going to be hosting the Hoyas at Cooley Year 2. The classic Big East matchup between Syracuse and Georgetown. One of the great rivalries in the history of college basketball. And I think, sadly, I'm the only person that cares a lot about this at this point. I still hate Georgetown just as much, if not more, than anybody. For me, they're still our big rival. That's who I care about beating the most when you look at that schedule. Would it be great to beat Duke, North Carolina, Clemson, all those? Yeah, it's always great. You always want to take a win. But I just want to beat Georgetown, man. I want to beat them by 40. I don't want them to have a chance from the opening tip till that final buzzer. December 14th, which I'm actually going to check and see what day that is. Because I would hopefully it's a Saturday. Hopefully it's not a noon game on a Saturday because I would like to be able to go to that game. And I love going to see SU Georgetown at the Dome. So that is now scheduled. It's starting to come together. Colgate, we've got November 12th. We know that November 21st and 22nd will be playing in the Legends Classic at the Barclays Center in Brooklyn. We know that we're going to be playing Maryland at the Barclays Center in Brooklyn as well. A lot of games in the Barclays Center this year for Syracuse. So we know that that's going to happen. And we know that Syracuse is going to play in the Players Era Festival, which sounds like a music festival. And that's the multi-team event where participating teams are getting $1 million payouts towards their collective and allocated student athletes. So the NIL tournament, essentially. That's just the jargon that they're using. The NIL tournament, we're going to be playing in that as well this year and next year. So that's going to be fun. Who doesn't want $1 million extra to throw to your players who absolutely deserve it? Jim says, too bad Judah didn't end up at Georgetown to add some more spice. Yeah, it would definitely add something to the rivalry in the matchup this year. But I'm not going to say too bad that Judah Mintz didn't end up at Georgetown because I'm thrilled he didn't. That would have made me unbelievably mad. I was already mad enough that Malik Brown decided to go to Duke, and so happy for him. I wish him nothing but the best with the Blue Devils, but already made me mad. I didn't need another guy going to another rival. I would have hated to see Judah Mintz in that Georgetown uniform. The gray, I'm shivering just thinking about it. It's bad. Just a bad look. Would have liked to see Kadari come home, but we all sort of knew that Kadari Richmond was not going to be coming back to Syracuse. It was a fool's dream that he would come back, and he decided to stay close to home. Kadari, from Brooklyn, transferred obviously out of Syracuse to Seton Hall, where he became a first-team All-Big East player. Kadari had a tremendous year at Seton Hall this year. He got a triple-double, averaged, I think, like 14, 15 points a game, but does so much on the basketball court. So happy for him. He decided to stay close to home. He's going to St. John's to play under Rick Pitino, and that's going to be a lot of fun to watch him for the Johnnies this year, because that's a team that I thought was borderline a tournament team, and they had a player like that, and all of a sudden St. John's should be in the upper echelon of the Big East next year, up there with, not quite with your Connecticut's, because Connecticut is unbelievable, but with your Marquettes and teams like that, Creighton. All of a sudden, the Johnnies are in that conversation, and that's going to make things a lot of fun. Jim says at least Siena, James Madison, and McNeese State aren't rivals of Syracuse. Yeah, I mean, obviously, Peter Carey, Justin Taylor, and Whittier Copeland going to those schools, respectively. Yeah, those are fine. I'm glad that GMAC got at least one guy to follow him to Siena. That actually made me quite happy. Good for Peter. I think he'll do really well at Siena. James Madison seems like a perfect place for Justin Taylor. And I said it last week, I really don't understand Whittier Copeland going to McNeese State, but that's just me. This just in, Pitino a decent coach. Yeah. I remember when Josh and I decided to do a tier list of all the great coaches in the history of college basketball, which is on the Score 1260 YouTube channel, by the way, if you would like to watch that. It was a lot of fun. I think it's like 30 coaches that we ended up putting in a tier list. A couple of which we weren't too familiar with, but it was a lot of fun and pretty informative. We went through their records and tournament records, stuff like that. Rick Pitino was, I think, the easiest one for us to put in S tier, which is the top tier. We're like, oh yeah, Pitino, for sure. Say what you want about him. You can bring up the violations, whatever. The guy's an unbelievable coach. And he just gets the most out of his players. And he gives great quotes. Love a Pitino interview. He had some killer quotes this year, his first year at St. John's. And it's weird because I kind of root for him in a way. It's not even the whole, oh, he was an assistant at Syracuse thing. It's like, yeah, that's cool. And I like, it's a fun thing to mention. Rick Pitino's got a little bit of a local connection with that. He was, I believe, the first assistant that Jim Boeheim hired at Syracuse was Rick Pitino, which imagine playing under that coaching staff, huh? Pretty good. But there's just something about him. Slick Rick. Jim says good quotes when at the Celtics. One of the great coach quotes ever. Bird, McHale, and Parrish are not walking through that door. And it's funny because as a Boston Celtics fan, I shouldn't like Rick Pitino. He was terrible as the coach of my favorite basketball team. But I've always kind of liked him. Him and Boeheim are buddies. Like, there's just something about him. I've always liked him. I forgot Will Wade was the coach at McNeese State. And yes, they did make the tournament this past season. As breaking news, Jordan Spieth just hooked one into the left rough off the tee. Usually he waits until Sunday to do that. That's surprising. But I just like Pitino, man. And I like college basketball, and I miss it. And I'm looking forward to the season to start. We're inching closer until November when that college basketball season starts, and everyone in Syracuse just has a little bit more buzz around them when SU basketball is playing, especially coming off a 20-win season, something that they hadn't done in the regular season in a decade. Do have to take a timeout. We'll be right back here on Outside the Box Score with me, Mark Rowlands, your home for local sports in Syracuse on the Score 1260. Was that the best front court ever? Do you mean period or just in Boston? Because easily in Boston, potentially ever. That, I mean, Bird, McHale, and Parrish, just unbelievable. Also, Jim, guess what? I'm behind on breaks. I did it. I still somehow fell behind on breaks, even though it's just myself. Yeah, all three in the Hall of Fame. I mean, I think it was the '86 team that had 6 Hall of Famers on it. I want to say with Dennis Johnson, Bird, McHale, Parrish, Bill Walton, and there was one more. 40-1 at home. That's unbelievable. That's unbelievable. I did not know that stat. But yeah, those. I remember I wrote a few articles for a website a couple of years ago. The website's no longer around. This was ahead of the Ryder Cup at Whistling Straits. So, yeah, it was a few years ago. But I remember I wrote an article for, I was naming my top 25 NBA players. And this stuff you remember but couldn't tell you SU's starting lineup. Fair. And I remember going through my top 25 NBA players of all time, and the people who read it being very mad that I put Larry Bird 4th. The guy was just unbelievable. It was Kareem, Jordan, LeBron, Bird, Magic. That was my top 5. And you can't say that I'm just a biased Celtics fan because I put a Laker first. I put a Laker first. So that's how you know I'm not just a biased Celtics fan. I think Bird was a little better than Magic. They're so close. Just a little better.
Whitaker Cars and Trucks, you're good to go.
And we're back outside the box score with me, Mark Rowlands, your home for local sports in Syracuse, right here on the Score 1260. Just want to quickly tell you about our friends at Myers Creek Brewing Company with 16 craft beers on tap. It is your only destination for the best beer in Syracuse, both the Cazenovia, the Palace in Cazenovia, which pretty good day to go out to Cazenovia, actually. When we come back for our next break, I'll check the Myers Creek website, see if they have any events going on over there because they have so many, or the Inner Harbor location. And by the way, if you are going to go to the Inner Harbor location, just today, just go down the street a little bit. They're at Wingfest, and the very same Wingfest where they took home the award for the best wing, their pickle spice wing, award winning. They've got some of the best wings, and they've got the best wings in Central New York. Great pizza, the best beer. Hands down, the best beer. I was drinking a new one recently. I went to trivia on Wednesday, as I often do. Second place for Bedrock Construction this week. And I've been drinking this sour. It's called the Raspberry Kringle. Oh, it's good. I'm not even a huge sour beer drinker. I like them from time to time, but they've got this new raspberry sour, which I love. So make sure to check that out next time you go. Or just drink the Velvet Fog, which is their signature beer, and a delicious hazy IPA. Check out the Floatin' On By if you want something a little lighter. It's just a traditional Pilsner, best traditional Pilsner, brewed in this area, and one of the best you'll ever taste. So check out our friends at Myers Creek Brewing Company, the official beer and bar of Outside the Box Score with Mark Rowlands.
The Score 1260 is getting social with you.
Yeah, Jim, I was about to get the Preakness odds up. Talk about that at the end. How about the Belmont being at Saratoga this year? That's fun. Aren't there only 8 horses in the Preakness, too? 9 horses, okay. Oh, no, one of them got scratched, so there's 8. Mystic Dan being that heavy of a favorite's weird. I don't think he's going to win. I really don't. They weren't even sure if he was going to race. I don't think Mystic Dan is winning. We'll talk about it when we come back. I also did want to mention that high school story there. So. What the hell is this? Go away. There we go.
CUA.
And we're back outside the box score with me, Mark Rowlands, your home for local sports in Syracuse, right here on the Score 1260. Wrapping up another fun-filled hour. A couple more things I do want to talk about before we get out of here. Quickly, a shout-out to the Baldwinsville girls flag football team, a newer high school sport added recently to Section 3. They were able to take the Section 3 title against Syracuse East, which my old alma mater, not quite in Syracuse East, but the Syracuse City School District, that's Henniger Nottingham, taking them down. So Baldwinsville grabbing the Section 3 flag football title. I saw this being played at Fowler the other day, and I thought it was really interesting. I didn't realize that it was a thing going on right now as sectionals for that. And I was just driving down Geddes Street, right past Fowler High School. They were playing it on the football field. It was cool. It was really fun to watch. Just caught a couple plays while stuck at a red light, but it was cool. So congratulations to Baldwinsville for nabbing the sectional title there. And, of course, pretty big horse race tonight, the second leg of the Triple Crown, the Preakness Stakes. 8 horses running tonight. We've got Mugatu, 20-1 odds, the number 1 horse. Uncle Heavy, the number 2, also at 20-1. The 3-horse Catching Freedom, 7-2 right now, so 3.5 to 1. The 4-horse Muth, M-U-T-H, don't know how they're pronouncing it, was scratched. The Derby winner, Mystic Dan, currently 8-5 odds, pretty significant favorite in the Preakness Stakes. Seize the Gray, 12-1. The 6-horse, same as the 7, Just Steel. Tuscan Gold, the 8, going off at 9-2 right now. And Imagination at 3-1. I don't think Mystic Dan is winning the Preakness. They weren't even sure if they were going to run Mystic Dan in the Preakness. I think that's a very strange line. Now, I'm not going to sit here and act like I'm an expert on horse racing. I'm not. I bet 4 horse races a year. Those are the only ones I watch. I watch the Derby, the Preakness, the Belmont, and the Travers. And that's it for me with horse racing. I'm not going to sit here and pretend like I'm an expert. Did have an expert on last year right before the Derby, Jim Gazzali. And this is, I just don't see Mystic Dan winning. I just don't. I'm not sure what the track conditions are going to be like for the Preakness today. It's just weird. It's a weird line to me. I'd much rather bet Catching Freedom, Tuscan Gold, probably Tuscan Gold, the 8-horse, just because 9-2 is a great odds. Great odds to get that horse at. And 3-1 for Imagination. I could see that going, but I just don't like Mystic Dan today. I don't know what it is. Like I said, I'm no expert. I'm the opposite of an expert. I'm the most casual horse racing fan / better that you will find. But I think I'm going to throw down on Tuscan Gold. Love the name. 8's a good number. Maybe Seize the Gray, 12-1 if you want to juice that a little bit. 6, one of my 2 lucky numbers. My 2 lucky numbers are 6 and 16, which is just my birthday. So I'd either go the 6-horse Seize the Gray at 12-1 or the 8-horse Tuscan Gold at 9-2. And by the way, the Belmont this year, not at Belmont. It's in Saratoga. That's going to be fun. That's going to be a really fun weekend in Saratoga, them getting one of the legs of the Triple Crown. We'll be back next week. We won't be back next week. Same time, same channel. So we will not be back next week. Probably not going to be here June 1st either. I will confirm that later, but we'll see you soon here on Outside the Box Score, your home for local sports in Syracuse. Peace.
Listen on radio, smart speakers, and our free mobile app, WS.